drives one in the air. Deep right field. It's got a chance. Grand slam. Way back it might be. It could be. Cubs win. Cubs win. Cubs win. Holy cow.
The Dingers podcast is on the air. I'm your host, Mitch. I'm here with Jake. The Cubbies are coming off of a series win, and now they just took the first of a 3-game set in Baltimore, a 9-2 victory tonight. We had Jamison Tyone pitch a great game, another dinger by Happ, and another dinger by Michael Busch. So it's a good night to talk some Cubs baseball. How are we doing tonight there, Jake?
Oh man, I'm, to borrow from our buddy Cody, CHGO Cubs, I am ready to be heard again, baby.
Yeah. They're going to do it to us again, aren't they?
So folks, Mitch and I were talking about it pregame here. Are the Cubs going to trick themselves into being at least soft buyers at the deadline again? Are we going to get Jose Cuas 2.0?
Yeah, bring him back again.
Are we gonna give up another DJ Hers for a Jamer Candelario type? It could happen, Mitch.
It
could happen.
And you see, like, you get Leiter back tonight. Merriweather's coming back. Bullpen is going to be shored up. We're going to make a run here before the All-Star break, and we're going to go to the All-Star break like 2.5 back. I think we're 5.5 games now, maybe 5 now. I could see it happening. They're going to like play these games with us. Man, it's tough, but it is at least good to watch some good baseball. Saturday was not so much good baseball.
No.
But Friday, Sunday was great. Tonight, offense started clicking a little bit. Happ has been hot. So it has been fun to watch Cubs baseball. It's weird to say that because I haven't said that in a while. That's actually been fun to watch Cubs baseball. But here we go. It's getting fun again.
Yeah, and I was gonna tweet this, but I figured we could talk about it here. I did ask, and this wasn't a rhetorical question, when was the last time we saw a complete team victory against an opponent as good as the O's? I honestly couldn't tell you. I mean, top to bottom, I don't think Dansby had the best game, but I think he went maybe over. Did he go over 5?
Yeah, he paid twice.
Over 5 with a ribby, with 3 Ks. Mastro coming in with 2 hits. I know we don't typically do single game breakdowns, but I do think it's important to hit, the Orioles are first in the AL, and I believe that means they have the best record in the American League too, if I'm not mistaken. AL East being the division that it is. So the Cubs come out after a series win against, I think, the worst team in the league in the Angels.
Yeah.
And then they hang a 9 spot. And yes, it's Dean Kramer, not a household name, but I was just listening to, I think it was Rates and Barrels. I've talked about them before here. And I want to say it was them that said, Dean Kramer had been pitching, let's say, in the last 30-day samples or, last 5 starts, whatever it was, to a 3.15 ERA, which obviously is very good. Again, Dean Kramer's not the flashiest. He's obviously not the ace of the Orioles, but he's a good pitcher. And to hang up 5 earned runs, 7 runs, 2 homers against him is a big deal coming out of the weekend that they did. I don't know, man. It's we saw what this offense is capable of at the beginning of the season. Are they going to finally click again? And can the starting pitching stay that way? You talked about the bullpen being shored up here soon. Are they getting our hopes up, Mitch? Is it something should we be hopeful? Talk me down from this.
I don't know
because I eat my ice cream.
I think on Sunday I almost talked myself back into believing, and then tonight I was like, wait a minute, I'm gonna give them another day because the Angels are pretty bad. I was like, if we can do anything here against the O's, we need to bring it up because it's a good team. And here they go. They win a pretty convincing game. And if I were to tell you that at the beginning of the season that Justin Steele would be a sub-3 ERA, Tyone would be sub-3 ERA, Assad would be right around 3, Shota being right around 3, Michael Busch putting up the numbers that he's putting up, like you would say that that's a playoff team, right? If you were to get those things, you'd be like, yeah, this team's a playoff team.
Right. And I think like obviously like you leave out names like you're left wondering, okay, well, wait, what's Morel doing? Is that experiment working? Is Dansby continuing his offensive performance from last year? So I bring that up because there's still guys on this roster who may click. And we can get into maybe some deadline talk because I do want to talk about that as it's looming. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that over the next few weeks. But Bellinger only 1 for 5 tonight. Seiya 2 for 5. Seiya's getting into one of his hot stretches.
Yeah, he's getting hot and he's been driving in runs. Like he's been our big run producer as of late. And you got what, 2 tonight? At least 1.
2 RBI tonight. And I think, going back to what I was saying between, specifically about Morel and Swanson, I hate to say it, but I'm long past the end of my rope on Christopher Morel. Obviously one of the more fun Cubs players to watch in a long time. And by all accounts, just an excellent, excellent human being. But that doesn't win ball games. I'm sure it's great for the clubhouse, great for morale. But man, 199, 672 OPS. And we could talk, I love underlying numbers. I actually haven't checked his underlying numbers in a while, but I know about a month ago or around a month ago, people were talking about but wait, everything on Savant is red. It's been a month and it hasn't translated. And I don't know how much more rope they should give him. And I know we weren't necessarily going to get into this. We could talk about Swanson too, but I think right now we're missing, and that's one of the things that we had in April when the offense was hot. The bottom half of the order was picking up if the top you were seeing contributions up and down the lineup through the month of April. And it was a different guy every day. And I'd like to see that. I'd like to see a role player like Morel, or we'll call him an offensive role player because obviously we know his defensive prowess, but an offensive role player like Swanson, I'd like to see them get in on the hot streaks. And I'm not complaining about this victory tonight, but you need this to continue that momentum.
Yep. And that's what we saw on Sunday. Amaya having a little bit of a break. He was 2 for 4, drove in a run. And we need production, like you said, out of those spots that we haven't been getting any production out of. Like shortstop, we haven't been getting any production because Dansby's been struggling. Catcher, we've no offensive production whatsoever. It's been just a hole. Second base has been kind of a hole, but as of late, Nico started to drive the ball the other way, looking to get in the gap. He's starting to find his swing. We need those spots. We need Belly to get the slug up there a little bit. We need him to start driving in some runs and finding some gaps. His hard hit rate is still way down. We need those things to be happening. But our individual performances, there are guys that are shining. There are the Ian Happs who, I'll eat my words a little bit. I was pretty down on him a couple months ago, and he's kind of done the Ian Happ thing. Slow start, really picked it up from both sides of the plate, and his defenses look better. He made a spectacular play tonight, but he's not our star player. He's a great role player that we need to have production out of, but we need our Dansby Swanson that we're paying the big bucks. We need those guys to be shining. Seiya has been getting a little bit hot. We need him to go through the stretch, but I'm so happy with Michael Busch. The player that we got in Michael Busch, and I'll bring up Darren's comment here. Been saying it, leave Busch at first base daily. That's what I've been saying. He's batting over 300 versus left-handed pitching. Like what was his? I was looking it up. His where was it? His OPS is versus lefties, it's 931 versus righties at 797. And so like there's production from facing left-handed pitching. And so if we've seen Patrick Wisdom over there taking away at bats, and especially like from a guy that we've invested in, we traded some pieces away to get this fill a role somewhere. We should give him ample opportunity, especially this year where we don't know what we're doing. We're not really going for it. Are we going for it? I don't know. We should be giving him as many opportunities as possible to show what he can do.
What are those at bat samples? How many at bats versus lefties versus righties? I'm curious. You saw those numbers up?
37 at bats versus lefties. So the sample size is way different because 37, 221 versus righties. So it's quite a bit different. But
still, I mean, like it's not not a big enough sample size to be conclusive, but it's still very encouraging. And I feel like that was something I want to even say, like in spring training. I know we've talked about this before, and we were kind of surprised that he didn't have trouble handling lefties. Maybe it's something like it sticks in my head. Maybe it's something that Jed mentioned when the trade was announced. But yeah, I like it really pains me to say it again. Talk about another great guy. A guest that we've had on the pod, Patrick Wisdom. It's tough, but Patrick's tenure with the Cubs has been great overall. I mean, like if you look at it, especially in the context of what this team has been while he's been here, Patrick Wisdom has been a great contributor to this team. He's been a fan favorite. I'm not necessarily saying that he doesn't have a spot on this roster anymore, but if moves are made to bolster this roster, you do start to wonder where he fits in. I do think, I haven't looked at his defensive numbers this year. I haven't honestly watched enough tape or live games to see how he's handled defense this season. I know we kind of talked about it last year. Like what happened? It felt like his defense fell off a little bit last season. Maybe it was because he was bouncing around a little bit more and not only playing third base. But I do think at the very least, if his glove plays like, in a pinch, if you have to put him in late in the game in third base for whatever reason, if you made some kind of switch earlier in the game and it makes sense to do a double switch and get him in at third base. But having that bat off the bench is still huge. I mean, that right-handed bop is something that you always see. You always see like one guy who has light tower power that can come in and pinch hit late in the game forever. That's been a thing, whether lefty or righty. Mm-hmm. And we'll bring up Darren's point here. No doubt Patrick Wisdom is a great guy, but man, don't see him in the Cubs' future. And yeah, his defense been poor on all facets. And I think that is something too. I mean, I'm not necessarily, I don't know if you could get much in return for Patrick Wisdom as a trade asset, but yeah, I mean, Patrick Wisdom's getting a little bit older. The team's looking to get younger, and
he does hit left-handed pitching. But the way the Cubs are constructed right now, he can't be that pinch hit guy that comes in late for left-handed bat, because your left-handed bat, your only two left-handed bats in the order are, you have Ian Happ that can switch to right, and you have Bellinger, who you're not going to pinch hit for, and then you have PCA, which in late in games, you want PCA's glove out in the outfield.
Yep.
And so right now, the way the Cubs are constructed, he doesn't fit to fill that role of coming in and pinch hitting for any lefty bat. So it's tough, but there might be other teams out there that are looking for that. They need a guy that can hit lefties and maybe have a little bit of thump to be able to hit some home runs in the playoffs or down the stretch. So he does provide value. It's just, you have to find that team, and that's where Jed and they have to be scouting out what teams need that and what teams need to be able to fill that role and hopefully get something in return.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of tough too, just really quickly looking at his splits versus lefties. So Wisdom's got a 727 OPS with a 226 average and 61 plate appearances versus lefties this year. And then last year, it was a 769 OPS with a 217 average and 130 plate appearances. So 2022 looked great. 892 OPS, 250 average, and 141 plate appearances, but it's kind of fallen off since then. And I think a lot of it has to do with playing time. I mean, he's not getting the consistent play. We hear about that. We talk about that all the time. And I just don't, unfortunately, I just don't think the playing time is there anymore. And that's, that's baseball. It's the business of baseball, unfortunately.
With this time of year, we do get, like, especially where the Cubs are at, we've heard a lot of rumors getting thrown out there of possible trades, like Horner to Seattle. I heard Tyone even going to the O's. I heard that the other day.
Man, would I love to dip into their farm system.
I know, right?
Dude, package Tyone with anybody and see if you can get Kobe Mayo. Like, you'd need to probably, like, rarely do you see a prospect included with a major leaguer to get a better prospect return. But if they could find a way to get Kobe Mayo, all right, Jed, I forgive you for everything. Like,
heard Bellinger to the Phillies, I think, was thrown out there of, like, possible, like, that would be a fit. Yep. Do you see, like, you said you wanted to talk a little bit speculation, like, is it possible that you could trade any one of those three and still add two and make a push to get the wild card spot?
I think of the three, yeah, actually, yeah, I do. I think because you look at the starting rotation and we have guys coming back. I mean, they're question marks, I think, still. And I think Wicks is still a question mark. I love what we've seen from him in small samples, but it's the injuries, the soft tissue injuries keep coming. Ben Brown. I think Ben Brown is long for the bullpen as opposed to the rotation because he only has 2 pitches right now. Caleb Killian, man. Caleb Killian is that one prospect that I just, for whatever reason, am not going to give up on. And you know what? I think the reason is, like, you see that guy stand on the mound, and it's like, yeah, that's a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah.
And those shoulders, and he's got, like, I looked at his Savant page, and this was the 2023 data, but he threw like 6 different pitches last year at varied rates, but he's got the pitch mix. He's hitting triple digits. So that's a long-winded way of saying, like, I could see them trading Tyone, and if those 3 names I just mentioned stay healthy, plus Javier Assad, like, I think you have pieces to backfill Tyone's rotation spot. And if you can get a prospect in return that's ready to contribute at the major league level, like a Kobe Mayo, which, again, the odds of, I mean, that'd be a massive overpay from the O's to send Kobe Mayo just for Tyone. I mean, their fan base would be in uproar. And I don't know exactly who else is out there, but third base would be the first thing I'd look at. So yes, I think Tyone could be replaced. I think Bellinger, like, man, PCA's had some, like, wicked highlights, both defensively and offensively. I can't remember when it was. Sometime last week, PCA had a great game, like 2 or 3 hits, drove in some runs. As Dom likes to say, a bat out of hell on the base paths, which I think is the perfect way to put it.
Yep.
And you said it, man. Like, we need his defense in center field, and we're not playing Bellinger at first base. So,
see, that's where out of the 3, I could see them trading Bellinger and it not really taking away, especially with what he's done so far this year in his production. Yeah. You could find somebody to fill with what he's been doing. I just don't know what type of I am not going to expect a big return out of a Cody Bellinger. Though what we would get the most value for is a Tyone. I think there are teams that would be more willing to give up, especially if you threw another name in there, another prospect to get a Kobe Mayo. Like that would fill a huge third base hole that we've had. And then the other two guys that we've had for third base in our minor league system that we've talked about, Matt Shaw and Triantos, they're more second baseman.
Yep.
So if you have those coming up, then it leaves like, okay, then we could trade Horner, and then you're filling two holes, basically backfilling. I don't know. It's a fun game of chess, which I'm sure Jed and them are trying to do. But reports are today, they haven't ruled out going for it or staying stagnant. And it's kind of like what you said, led with, like, are the Cubs going to trick themselves into soft buying again? And the hard thing here is they're one of like 6-7 teams in the NL that are like 4.5 games back that they have to jump over. Like it's not one or two. It's a lot of teams that you have to hope to get hot, and you have to hope some of them get cold, and then it's a 2-team race. Like it's tough to play those games.
Yeah, and really quickly going to Bellinger and looking at the Phillies specifically, thinking about trading him for someone that is potentially major league ready. There aren't any position players in their top 10 that are higher than high A. So that kind of goes by the wayside. And I want to get a piece that can contribute this year. Maybe there's a catcher out there. Maybe there's a team where there's a catcher fit. Look at the trade we made with the Dodgers for Michael Busch. Gosh, I know they've got they've got a couple catching prospects. They've got, oh my gosh, bear with me here. Dalton Rushing, who's their number 1 overall prospect. I think offensively he hasn't been doing very hot this year. Diego Cartaya as well, who's at AAA. Let's see what his stats are this year. 290, 361, 452, 8 games at AAA. But Cartaya is a guy. And I mentioned this like a couple weeks ago, maybe. They've got a guy that's just kind of just like Michael Busch, that's been kind of floating in no man's land in Miguel Vargas. And I swear, man, if you give Miguel Vargas everyday playing time, that dude is going to break out so hard. And I don't know, like the Dodgers, it's tough. Like they're not necessarily like a trade fit for the Cubs right now, but I feel like they're always looking for pitching, even though they're pitching. Like, man, looking at their minor league pitching depth right now is crazy. But
what's his name? Glasnow went to the IL with some back, or he maybe exited.
Yeah, it said he's going to be back like right after the All-Star break. But you also wonder too, like, I mean, the Dodgers, like, I feel like the Dodgers, are they in first place? I haven't even like looked at standings, and I feel like the Dodgers.
Yeah, they're
55 and 37. I don't know why, like a week or so ago, I was listening to some podcast and people were kind of like, oh, are the Dodgers going to be okay? Now I'm looking, yeah, they're going to be just fine. Although they did get walloped by the Phillies today. I don't know. I mean, and like I heard this somewhere else. Horner to the Mariners doesn't really make sense for the Mariners, because the Mariners, it's similar to the Cubs in that their pitching has gotten them wins. Now, the Mariners starting pitching staff is much better than the Cubs from top to bottom. I mean, 1 through 5, all better than our 1 through 5. I think their defense is solid, but their offense is light hitting. So it's like, bringing in Nico Horner, does that really do much for them?
Yeah, that doesn't move the needle a ton to help them make a push.
And I love Nico, but
Yeah.
As we've talked about in the past, like, could he be a Trey Turner light? It just hasn't really clicked for him. And we talked about at the beginning of the season, his stroke looks different. And as you mentioned, he's getting back to it, but it's not happening consistently and quickly enough. And it's been kind of frustrating because it's a dude, it's like, this dude is a baseball rat. And for whatever reason, the offense this year is just not happening for him.
Yep. Yeah, he's not doing the small things what the team needs. And I think that has a lot to do with the lack of slug. And so when your team isn't driving the ball and isn't slugging, then guys think they need to change their roles to be able to provide. And I think that's the same thing with what's going on with Dansby. Like he's so pull happy, like everything, like he's pulling off the ball and like everything. It's like, dude, when
Mitch dropped. One thing I want to talk about with Nico, though. So I had his stats here. Last 7 days, batting .217, slugging .217. But before that, in his last 14, batting .271, on base percentage of .321, .717 OPS. I'd love to see Nico get. We got it back. I'm just gonna finish this thought on Nico, and then we'll let you get back to Dansby, Mitch. The last 2 seasons, Nico's OPS was we'll say it averaged like 732. That's excellent. Like, I'd love to see him continue that. I think he can continue that. 2021, he had a 751 OPS. So, I mean, his on base percentage was excellent. Only 44 games in 2021, but a 382 on base percentage. I'd like to see Nico getting on base a little bit more than he has been. And like you said, Mitch, like, yeah, because the team's not slugging as a whole, it looks like there are guys who, when that's not their game, they're still kind of pressing to try to make it their game. Where, let's face it, man, small ball, station to station, what this team is right now constructed to play is more fun to watch. And so I'd like to see these guys regain their form, Nico and Dansby specifically, and see that brand of baseball.
And like you have like guys, if Nico just gets on and you have PCA and you have guys like that to just run rampant on the base pass, like I've watched a couple Reds games and Ellie De La Cruz drives teams nuts getting on base. Like he just like yesterday, he stole a base after the catcher, as the catcher threw it back to the pitcher, he stole second. Like, he's just playing games now. But
he only has to take 5 steps to get to second base.
He does. So. But he's manufacturing runs for that team. Like, he's doing the things that team needs. And it's like, that's what we need, Nico. That's what we need, those guys to play those roles. But because we haven't had other guys fill the roles that they need to do to make this offense really go, which that's where we see the offense starting to succeed now when we have Happ and Seiya and Busch providing that slug, and other guys are doing their job of getting on base. And so it's not just a solo shot, it's a 2-run shot or a 3-run shot like tonight for Happ. And so that's how you win games. That's how you win games, especially when you're facing really good competition. You need table setters, you need guys to be able to drive them in. And something that has happened this whole season is our starting pitching has been strong. And now it looks like we're getting a bullpen. Big E tonight coming in. Like, yep. Dude, like, he needs to, like, I want to see him pitch in a high leverage situation just to see how he handles it. But the dude has the stuff. Like, I have heard from Alex Cohen with the Iowa Cubs. I've heard from Lance Brozdowski. Like, he laid out a tweet and broke down all of his pitching stats. Like, and they think he's legit. Like, they like, nope, this isn't just a flash in a pan. Like, this is legit. He's going to make a difference in this bullpen. Like, great. Okay. Now we're getting the pieces back to solidify our bullpen. Like, are you getting me to believe that we can make a run here? Like, I think like the Cubs are almost talking me into it just because like we've seen it. And I know Jed's going to have to account somewhere at the end of the season of what happened for those 2 months. What was it that caused our offense to go so dead? I know there was a lot of injuries that kind of got us out of our groove there, but then when they came back, it was still like something was missing and something was going on that we just weren't right. And so he's gonna have to account for that. Like I want him to answer that at the end of the season. What happened, and what are you gonna do next year so that doesn't happen if injuries pop up? Because I don't think they were prepared to backfill that. But I think I could see them, especially this next couple weeks, getting back into it and then doing nothing, staying stagnant. But man, when you brought up that Mayo, I really want him to be our future third baseman. And if we could trade Tyone and throw in Alcantara, I don't care. Like throw in another guy and let's go get a third baseman that's a stud.
Yeah, man. There was another guy too that I talked about like early on in the season. Hang on a second. I'm looking at their depth chart right now. Yeah, dude. The spoils that the Orioles have. So Jordan Westberg is so this is well, no, because they've got Jackson Holiday too.
Yep.
Their infield, their entire team is crazy. Adley Rutschman at catcher, Ryan Mountcastle, who's quietly bounced back this year at first base. Jorge Mateo's had a solid season, but Jordan Westberg is right behind him at second base, playing third base right now, while Jackson Holiday, who's 20 years old, maybe he's 21 now, their top prospect in baseball, as he's trying to figure it out back at AAA. And then Gunnar freaking Henderson, man. If you're listening to this and you haven't looked at Gunnar Henderson's numbers, he is quietly like a top 3 player in MLB this year. Like he is not being talked about enough. This dude is going, I mean, Judge is going to win the AL MVP barring, an injury, which knock on wood, I don't want that to happen. I want Judge to continue to get full healthy seasons just because it's exciting to watch. Good for baseball. But man, Gunnar Henderson is crazy. And in the outfield, you've got the starting 3 of Colton Cowser, who's struggled, but still shows a lot of promise. Cedric Mullins, Anthony Santander, with Heston Kierstad and Austin Hayes in the wings. It is bonkers, the spoils that they have. And I don't even know Kobe Mayo, Jackson Holiday, and there's one other like big
Basayo.
Basayo? Yeah. Yeah, Basayo is sick. That guy is
catcher / first baseman.
Yeah, Samuel Basayo.
Maybe they go after him because they need a catcher.
Dude, that guy. Look at his numbers. I mean, and that's like, and now we're getting a little off track here, and we can wrap. We wanted to keep this one shorter, but I think it's an important thing to look at in the context of the Cubs, like comparing the Cubs and the Orioles farm systems. I think they were 1 and 2 in most ranks coming into this season, but the difference being the Orioles have guys who feel like can't miss studs. And we have hammered this point home. The Cubs have 7 guys in the top 100, but none of them are really those impact offensive players. As of right now, Jefferson Rojas, maybe. James Triantos has had a hell of a season this year. We'll see if he can continue to keep it up as he rises through the ranks. But the Orioles have can't miss guys. And the can't miss guys that they had the last 2 seasons are now in the majors contributing at like MVP all-star levels. And I don't think that the Cubs have that. So to kind of wrap up the thoughts on the deadline, like let's hope if we can get one piece like that in some kind of package deal. Like, hey, does the team want Tyone and Bellinger? Like, let's get crazy with some things here. You never know. Like, an injury could happen. Like, I never wish injuries upon anybody. But what if one of the Phillies starting 5 gets hurt and is out for the season, and you trade Tyone and Bellinger. Actually, we talked about their dearth of prospects. We don't really like anybody in their system right now. So
Mullins goes down for the Orioles.
Sure.
Then boom. Well, it's 17 games until the trade deadline. There's still plenty of time for the Cubs to like do this like little push and make us all believers again. I enjoyed the ride last year and I'll enjoy the ride this year. So Cubs, take me on it. Let's go. I'm ready to get hurt again, as Cody would say. So yeah, it was a fun win tonight. Hopefully they can really make a good solid push. If they can take 2 of 3 from the Orioles, that's huge. And then they got a big series versus the Cardinals. If they could take 3 out of 4 in that one, like now we're talking. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the run last year. We got to get Talkman's great catch and all those great memories that I still have of last year, even though it was sour towards the end. There's still some great memories, and I'm ready to like live those all over again and create new ones in this maybe possible little run, even though the last 2 months have been absolute unbearable to watch. So yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it, Cubs. Let's get hot. So thanks for listening. Make sure you're checking out ontapsportsnetwork.com, where you can get all your great sports news, and follow the guys at Cubs on Tap. They're going to be going on. I think they started their podcast here in about 5 minutes. So go check out them guys, as they're going to be breaking down tonight's game. And yeah, thanks for listening, and go Cubs.